time we share, with a dash of this and a pinch of that, mixed all up with care. The best company and conversation, recipes and new creations. We're cooking up something good here at home. We are cooking up something good here at home.
Hello and welcome to At Home today. We're so glad you could be with us. It's nice to get mail from places like Kalamazoo, Michigan, of course Chicago, that station that has been with At Home almost since we first began on the air. And Kansas City, we're so glad that you folks are with us. You've been with us for a long time. Stations all over the country that are joining this network of At Home stations that are sending the program out to people across the country. We want to say a big thank you to you. We really do appreciate it. And all you cable systems that have picked up the program, thank you very, very much. We do appreciate it. And just like I appreciate the cable companies and the stations and our satellite network here at Cornerstone Television, I want to thank you, the viewer, who makes all of this really possible. Because if you weren't watching and you weren't telling your friends about it and you weren't saying, oh, you got to hear this recipe that Arlene made on At Home, then there would be no need for this program. But because you've enjoyed it and you keep telling us how much you enjoy it, it makes us feel like we're doing something good to encourage families. The bottom line at Home is we want families to be nurtured and to be drawn together. And if it happens around the dinner table, there's no better place, right? Well, you know, talking about happiness, things that make you happy, one of the viewers sent this recipe. This is a unique recipe to me, and this is for happiness cake. Now, these are the ingredients for the happiness cake. 1 cup of good thoughts, 2 cups of sacrifice, 3 cups of forgiveness for others, 1 cup of kind deeds, 1 cup of consideration, 2 cups of own faults well beaten. How about it? Here's the way you make it. You mix thoroughly, you add tears of joy, sorrow, and sympathy. Flavor with love and kindly service. Then you fold in 4 cups of prayers, faith, and enthusiasm. Spread all of it into your daily life. Blend well with human kindness. Serve with a smile at all times, and it will satisfy the hunger of many people less fortunate than ourselves. Isn't that a great recipe? We do all kinds of recipes here at home, but this is a recipe for happiness, and I hope that I've given you some words to think about today. We're going to include this special recipe with the recipes that we'll be doing on our program today. And today's recipes aren't mine, they come from our viewers. You love to send me recipes, and I love to receive them because 3 separate people took the time to write out a recipe and send it saying, Arlene, I hope you enjoy this. And I really hope that you'll enjoy it because we're going to make them today right here on At Home. We'll get the festivities started with viewer recipes right after this really important hint. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Well, to get together some really interesting ingredients and pour over chicken is going to make our first viewer recipe really unique. And this comes from Arlene Williams, and she said that she saw this demonstrated on another television program when she was in Florida. She said, Arlene, it looks so delicious, I thought I would send it to you. Thanks, I really appreciate it, Arlene. First of all, we're going to take our pan and spray a nice 13 by 9 inch baking dish. I like the glass baking dishes when it comes to chicken. I just like to use that. And this is all boneless, skinless. Look at that. There's not a bit of fat on that. And these came from Foodland. Foodland is our supplier for our meats and our groceries, and we really appreciate them because this is a nice selection. These are beautiful, boneless, skinless chicken breasts. Basically, we're just going to be layering them in this single layer. Don't pile them up because they don't cook evenly, for one thing. And secondly, what we're going to put on top of them, it has to cover all the chicken breasts. So you want to be sure that you lay them in a single layer. Make sure you use your Pam so that it doesn't stick. Wonder what we did without Pam, I mean, for all those years. Just makes it so easy when you have it. And I cut these, instead of leaving them in the whole breast or whole half breast, we cut them in serving pieces, because if you have children or you have, you're in a hurry or whatever, and you know that it's going to take time to cut them all up, just easier to pick them up to serve them if they're cut in nice serving pieces. All right, we've layered them all over the bottom of our baking dish. Get rid of this, put it here. All right, next what we're going to do is take 1 can of whole berry cranberry sauce, not the jellied one. You know, the ones you cut in slices, not that one. This is the whole berry, and you can see when we spoon it out, it will break apart very easily. You can actually see the little whole berries in there. Now, some people don't like cranberry, but tell you what, once you get this going, it doesn't seem like the regular old cranberry. My husband doesn't like cranberry, but he likes this, okay? And we're going to use 1 8-ounce bottle. Now, this is the fat-free. We're cutting out fats pretty much. This is Catalina. You can use Russian or Catalina. And you're just going to pour the whole bottle. Look at the colors. Aren't they pretty? That orange and red together. We're going to use the whole bottle. And, of course, there's no fat at all in the cranberry, which is good. Now we're going to take 1 package of Lipton onion soup mix. This is the dry onion soup mix. And there's no fat in this either. We've checked it all out. And we're just going to pour the whole package in there. Dry. Don't mix it up first. And let's mix this around. I like the combination. It's an unusual combination, but the onion taste in with the berries. Berries are very good. Cranberries are excellent for you. Just really, really excellent. And that little tang of the dressing is something I know you're going to want to try for your family. Especially if you like cranberry. I mean, if you really like cranberry, then it's really going to be a treat. And what you want to do, make sure I get this well mixed, is spoon this cranberry all over the chicken. And you see how nice and easy it is to spread. This will serve, well, you can see it's a whole pan full. So this should serve, I would say, 6 people very well, maybe even more. Of course, you have children, it would serve even more. But layer it evenly, making sure that all of the chicken is covered. That's important. You'll get a dry spot if you don't, and your chicken will be dry and not flavorful. This will render juice from the chicken, and you want to be careful with the timing when you're baking it, because this will end up like a glaze over the chicken. And if you're using the pieces that have the bones, like just the breast without boning it, then it will take a little longer because the heat has to get next to that bone and cook the chicken very well. This can go for an hour, I would say, this boneless. But I think if you go much more than an hour, it's going to end up being dry. So I would just keep an eye on it. You test chicken. When a fork is inserted and it comes out very easily, you know that it's done and it's well done. Put this in a 350-degree oven for an hour to an hour and a half. Make sure it's good and hot. Don't put it into a cold oven because then you have to increase your time on it. All right, the next what we're going to make is it's from another viewer. We want to thank Arlene for that last delicious, I know it's going to be delicious because I can smell it, recipe. This comes from Mrs. Paul Walker from Altoona. We want to say thank you to you. And she said this is just called Grandma's asparagus thing. She said every time we make this, we're going to have a get-together, someone says, make Grandma's asparagus thing. She said it's delicious. It's a good accompaniment to chicken, would be to beef, to pork chops, some type of a dish that you don't want to make gravy for. This would be appropriate. And all you do is take your casserole dish, and you're going to slice potatoes, drain them very well, and you're going to layer these in the bottom of this dish. And the dish, the baking or the casserole dish, if you have one that has a tight-fitting lid, that's what she suggests that we use. But since we don't have one, we decided we would use this and we'll cover it real tightly with foil. I think we'll get the same effect. Actually, the casserole should be about half full of potatoes. This might be a little under, but I think it'll work okay. Now on top of the potatoes, we're going to take an onion and we're going to slice, just put slices of onion all across the top of the potatoes. Wait, my finger here. And they can be chopped, or they can be whole pieces, or however you want to do it. Doesn't really matter. But if you like a lot of onion, do a lot of onion. You don't like it too much, cut back on it. I imagine you could even make it without, but I have a feeling that you lose some of that good, delicious flavor. Onion really flavors no matter what it's in. Some people I know, a good friend of mine, she likes the taste of it, but she doesn't like to eat an onion. So when she cooks anything with onion, she cooks it, then she digs it out so she doesn't have to eat it, but she likes the taste of it. And that's okay, because you can, that's what I like about cooking. You can do whatever you want. There are no set guidelines for things like this that you absolutely have to do or that you cannot do. So we're going to layer the onion. Okay, it's all over. There we go. Now, I'm going to do a little salt. Just a little, because potatoes always absorb salt. Remember that. All right, and some fresh ground pepper. If you ever get used to this, you won't go back to the old ground stuff, because this makes a dish. And we like pepper. We like to taste it. Now we're taking a can of the whole spears of asparagus. And she tells us that what we have to do, Mrs. Walker from Altoona, is lay these across the top of this. Now come on, you're saying asparagus. I'm telling you, it's good for you, and they're delicious. And these at one time were thought to be a vegetable that only the rich could enjoy because they were so expensive. But now we can all enjoy them. They may be a little costly, but if I were going to use the fresh ones, I would blanch them just a few minutes before I tried to carry this recipe out. So we lay them all across the potatoes and the onions. I'm going to add some more there. You could use the ones that have been chopped too, but I think that this makes it look better. She doesn't say that, but I would think you could. Evenly do them all over your casserole. Right? Now, this needs to cook for about an hour, and it has to be in a really good hot oven. Before we do that, though, we need to cut some butter and just dot the butter on the top. No, this is not low fat, I'm sorry. But it really looks like it would be delicious. Imagine that when this bakes, this butter will go all down through and flavor those potatoes and onions, and also butter the asparagus. Sometimes in the spring of the year you can get asparagus. Like here locally, we go to the Strip in Pittsburgh. Oh, they'll have bundles of the most beautiful asparagus you'd ever want to see. And it's very inexpensive. And I'm sure that in the area of the country that you're watching this, there's probably a place like that where you can go and get wholesale produce. And so that's the time to go. That's the time to make this too, when you can find it on sale, or you can use it with a can. Now we're going to, this is about 1/4 cup of butter, I guess we're sprinkling in here. You could go less if you wanted to. I wouldn't use the diet margarine on that because that's mostly water, and you'll end up with a really watery casserole that's probably not going to taste very good. All right, we've done that. Now we're going to take a piece of foil, and this needs to go into a very hot oven, 350 degrees, and seal it really, really tight, as tightly as you can. If you're one of those fortunate people that has a really nice casserole where the lid fits inside, that makes a nice seal, use that. It doesn't have to be this big. You can have a deeper casserole rather than a larger, wider spread casserole. But this will also bake for about 1 hour in a really hot oven. I'm going to put this to the side because there's not room in my oven, but I have one already prepared for us. Now we've gotten from the main meat entree, which is our cranberry chicken. We've made our vegetables in a casserole with our grandma's asparagus thing. Now we go to a unique and unusual dessert from one of our viewers called the dump cake. Yeah, dump, D-U-M-P. You say dump cake, yeah, because you, that's right, dump it all in the pan at one time. It's amazing how it bakes. It's wonderful how it bakes. You start out with a 13 by 9 pan. Get my ingredients here so you can see this. And we're going to take some of the butter and let me see. Hold on just a minute. Let me get a nice cold stick of butter because it's easier to work with than one that's soft. Put that back till that firms up. And we're going to grease the pan with this butter first. And this is what I do, especially if the recipe is not specific in how much butter that you use. And what I do is just take my stick of margarine or butter, and I butter the casserole or the baking pan with that stick of butter. And this recipe doesn't call for, it just says to put butter on the top, so it doesn't have to be specifically how much you're using. Make sure you do the sides of the pan. You don't want the cake to stick. Now this is going to be a fruit cake, a fruit type cake, because it has pineapple, cherries, it's got nuts in it. But you don't have to mix a batter like we know of making a batter. That's what makes this so easy. Now we'll just hold on to that till later. Now we'll take this is 1 large can of the crushed pineapple, and we're just going to pour that. Don't drain it. Leave the juice in there. We need the juice too. And with a spatula, try to spread it out as evenly, considering the juice is in there, but as evenly as possible over the entire bottom of the cake pan. 13 by 9 is the proper pan for this. You wouldn't want it to go any smaller, you wouldn't want it to go any larger because this is just right. Next we take 1 can of Thank You brand or whatever kind of, this is the pie filling, these are cherries. And I'm just going to take a little bit at a time and kind of try to spread it evenly as possible over the pineapple. Now that's not going to be the easiest thing in the world to do, but you can kind of get it spread around. And if you don't worry about it. Somebody will just get a piece that has more pineapple than pineapples and cherry, and it will be fine. Don't you love doing things like this for your family? Gives you such a good feeling, just really does. This time of the year when we're all getting ready for warmer weather and the spring of the year and times when we see life coming about. We see that that's laying dead all winter long finally coming back to life. It just gives you such a feeling of hope, doesn't it? Because the dead of winter, when everything is so bleak and dark, you think, oh, gee, are we ever going to see the bright blue sky and that great sunshine again? But you know what? It's coming. Just hang in there. If it's been a rough winter, this too will pass, and soon it will be spring, and we'll all forget the times of winter that we've had. It's been a rough winter this year. A lot of parts of the country have known real devastation, and it's been hard, but spring is coming, and then comes summer. Ha! That's what we're all waiting for. Right, Dale? The beach is calling. I know. All right, so now we have the pineapple in there. We've got the cherry spread. Now we're going to take 1 plain box of yellow cake mix. Just a plain box of yellow cake mix, not the one with the pudding or anything, just the plain cake mix. And I'm going to tear this off very carefully. Open it up, and just with your hands, sprinkle the dry cake mix. Don't mix it with eggs. Don't do anything like it says on the back of it. You're just going to sprinkle this very evenly over the entire surface of this fruit. Now you say, Arlene, what in the world's that going to be like? Well, you're going to see in just a minute, because I'm going to show you in just a few minutes what this dump cake really looks like. And Viola Clapper is the one that sent this to me, and I really appreciate her doing so. She's been a real faithful fan of At Home for a long time. Sent me recipes and always sends and asks for our recipes. We appreciate that. If there are any big lumps of this cake mix, you want to crush them. Don't leave any big lumps come out. You want it nice and like fine, like I'm doing here. do it very evenly. And you say, that looks like an awful lot for that cake. Well, it does, but what's going to happen is that when we finish with this, we put it in the oven and let it bake. It comes out the most wonderful cake. It's got a batter, and on the bottom is all this wonderful fruit. You're going to be amazed at how delicious it really is. You're going to enjoy it a lot, okay? So the entire package goes on. Now we're going to take about a half a cup. Now you can use any kind of nuts you want. These happen to be walnuts. And we're just going to sprinkle those randomly across the top. These are chopped. You wouldn't want to put whole nuts, I don't think. That's too much. Just sprinkle them all over. If you like a lot, put a lot. If you just like a few, if you like them ground, grind them up. You have a little problem chewing them, grind them up. That'll be fine. Actually, all you want is to get the flavor of the walnut in with this wonderful cake. Now, next thing we're going to do, on top of that, we're going to take some dots of butter. Told you there's no specific amount, so it really is kind of up to you. I think I would probably use at least this one stick of butter or oleo to do this with, and the reason is what happens is the butter melts, goes down into the cake mix, and that along with the juices of the fruit makes a batter, and then the batter cooks, comes up, rather bakes, I call it cook, comes up and covers the fruit, and when you serve it, the fruit is on the bottom and the batter is on the top, and the nuts are right there, cooked right into the batter. It's wonderful. It's a tasty. Linda Wilson told me that when she goes to like a covered dish or something and she has to take something, while she's getting dressed, she whips one of these up, puts it in the oven. By the time she's ready to go to the function, her cake's ready. She doesn't have to ice in it, doesn't have to do anything with it. It's ready to go, and she hasn't spent a lot of time laboring over it. Now, is this the kind of recipes that we're interested in? You better believe it, because it's important. When we're so busy in our lives, we don't have all the time to do those things. It's nice to do them when you have time, but it's also nice to have some recipes like this that can be done just at a drop of a hat. And almost all of this you can have on your pantry shelf. Keep a jar or a can of cherries, keep a can of crushed pineapple. Can we get that out there for a minute? And you always have a cake mix or two that you keep in your pantry. So we're just going to cover this with some butter. And this will bake in a preheated oven. Really important to preheat that oven at 350 degrees. And this is going to bake, believe it or not, for 1 hour. It's important to do it for an hour. And when it's done, it's the most delicious cake. Linda said it's even better warm than it is cold. And we're going to come back in just a minute and show you all of the things that we've prepared in today's program. We'll be right back right after this important message. And that includes our cranberry chicken. Looks so good, doesn't it? That makes a glaze on it. And here's Grandma's asparagus thing. Thanks, ladies. I really appreciate your recipes. And look at this dump cake. Are you ready for that? Looks like, almost like a cobbler. Man, can you imagine that with a little bit of whipped cream on it, or a little bit of yogurt, that non-fat yogurt? Or how about the scoop of good old ice cream? Or, oh, just let your imagination run wild. Seriously, we've had a good time doing our viewer recipes today, and I hope you've enjoyed the program. Anytime that you have a recipe that has been a family favorite of yours, just include your name, your address, and even a phone number if that's possible, so that if we decide to prepare it, we can thank you personally. I want to thank all the ladies, Viola, Eileen, and Mrs. Paul Walker. That's right. Thank you very much. I appreciate it, ladies. And do you know, I had a call, a very interesting call from one of our viewers in the Chicago area, who several months ago we were making that birthday cake, that large birthday cake at the beginning of the year so that you could make it for your family. Well, Mrs. Walker, this dear sweet lady from Chicago, not Mrs. Walker, but she called and she said, Arlene, I made your cake, I put it in the pans, it's all over the bottom of my oven, the smoke alarm went off, it smells so bad, what in the world am I going to do? What did I do wrong? Well, it so happened she used a smaller cake pan than she should have. The batter came up just raised up over top and went down the bottom of her oven and burned. Well, we found the problem, we found the solution, and I had a letter from her just recently, and she said, Arlene, that is the most delicious cake when I used the right pans. And what she did was use 3 8-inch instead of the 2 9-inch pans. Keep that in mind. If a recipe calls specifically for a size of a cake pan, if you make an alteration, you better change the recipe too, because you may end up with a mess like this dear sweet lady did in Chicago. Well, we're always glad to be here with you. We're always happy that we can come into your home every week. And if you have a really good recipe, like I said, drop it to us. We'll be glad to try it out. Maybe not right away, but we'll take a look at it. And when we feel like it's the right time, we'll do it. All right? So be sure to send for 177. And until we see you the next time, just be sure to be joining with us, because it wouldn't be the same without you here at home. We'll see you then.
Fresh produce provided by Jordan Banana, wholesalers of fresh fruit and vegetables in Dravosburg, PA. Cookware provided by Woolies. Your favorite gourmet deserves the best for less from Woolly Balcony Cookware. Groceries provided by Foodland, where the answer is always yes. Cornerstone Television wishes to thank all our faithful viewers whose consistent prayers and financial support have made this program possible.